Hello and welcome. This is the Zen community of Oregon, making the teachings of the Buddha Dharma accessible to support your practice. New episodes air every week. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Welcome to Metta Sesshin, June 2025. Metta, we've been using all the words, I think. Loving kindness, goodwill, benevolence, gentleness, friendliness, acceptance, appreciation, love. The meaning does not reside in the words, but a pivotal moment brings it forth. These words are pointers. They are not the experience, but they can help us orient to the experience. You might not be feeling anything resembling these words right now. And that is okay. You might be, and that's okay. One person in our retreat practicing online is someone who's been practicing metta for a long time. And he shared yesterday that he was sitting right where you are in this very zendo several years ago at a Metta Sesshin. This was several years ago. Metta was a lifeline for his early recovery. Literally a lifeline, life or death. So this person had to practice quite diligently. So he came to this Metta Sesshin and found himself so thoroughly annoyed by someone fidgeting across the zendo. And he had the experience of just hating that person. And then realizing that he hated everyone on that whole side. I don't know if it was this side or that side, but he hated everybody. And this just threw him into such despair that he was so far from who he was endeavoring to be. And then he went to bed, and then he got up, and he kept practicing. He continued practicing metta, the phrases, repeating the phrases, this lifeline. And he did the smile practice specifically. And metta was transformative for him over the years. And he offers this practice to others now, particularly those who are in desperation. He has uncovered a loving heart that was always there. And his metta practice is now pretty much wordless. So there's some really lovely Dharma being shared in the online portion of our retreat here. When we bow to the camera, we're bowing to travelers along the way. We're all practicing together. We're all supporting each other. And I wanted you all here to know that, especially if you're not feeling particularly loving kind, or if the words are tripping you up at all. Metta can be a slow practice, but tectonic in its effect. Don't underestimate its power. I do like to use the word love. it feels a little transgressive to use it in Zen. Love is a troublesome word. It sets us up a little bit. We use it so shallowly and broadly that it's almost meaningless. I love big band music. And I love those dark chocolate peanut butter cups from Trader Joe's. Some of you apparently do too. Now, as true as that is, it is kind of absurd that I use the same word when I end a call with my 91-year-old mom. And in that, I love you, the word love is embedded with so much. My whole life history. Really hers too. The complexity of our relationship, including the fairly major things that we disagree about, but insist on connecting on other things. The ways I make myself miserable worrying about her. And the rapidly diminishing number of times that I will get to talk to her. The word love also gets tangled up in ideas of romance. We can mistake it for clinging and obsession. We can mistake it for ownership, not freedom. So this word love is a bit overworked. So perhaps when we use the word love in this context, when we use the word love in the context of metta, let's point to this. Here's my favorite definition, and it's from Mr. Fred Rogers. Love is like infinity. You can't have more or less infinity. And you can't compare two things to see if they're equally infinite. Infinity just is. And that's the way I think love is too. Love is like infinity. You can't have more or less infinity. And you can't compare two things to see if they're equally infinite. Infinity just is. And that's the way I think love is too. Well, now there's Mr. Rogers dropping some real dharma. This is not the love of Trader Joe's dark chocolate peanut butter cups. There is a real freedom in this meaning of love, isn't there? He's talking about love as infinite, total inclusivity. What is this? What is he talking about? Is he pointing to the great mystery? What is beginningless? What is endless? Can infinity even be a thing? When is infinity? What is your direct experience of this? Perhaps this kind of love is what some people call God, or the absolute, or pure awareness, or even the beloved, or the friend. What's your direct experience of this? Where is it located? Is it somewhere else in outer space? Is it in some preferable circumstance? Is it in some past experience or future experience? Or is it here, right now? Where else? Where else could it be? Here's another teaching from Mr. Rogers. I believe that appreciation is a holy thing. That when we look for what's best in a person we happen to be with at that moment, we're doing what God does all the time. So in loving and appreciating our neighbor, we're participating in something sacred. I believe that appreciation is a holy thing. That when we look for what's best in a person we happen to be with at the moment, we're doing what God does all the time. So in loving and appreciating our neighbor, we're participating in something sacred. Appreciating is another great word, really pointing to this experience. Jogen Sensei mentioned 3 dimensions of this metta practice right before work practice this morning, which I thought was so helpful and bears repeating. The first, presence, being aware of our experience, paying attention, presence, being here. Second, acceptance. Acceptance of that experience. Not arguing with it. Not struggling against it. And third, warming the heart. Metta. Why do that third part? Why not? It seems like all of that might be rolled into something called appreciation. Our Dharma grandfather, or for some of you, your Dharma great-grandfather, Taizan Maizumi Roshi, used this word a lot. Appreciate. Appreciate your life. Appreciate has a sense of that, seeing the best in something. But it can also have perhaps an even impersonal curiosity of looking closely and with care, like you'd appreciate a work of art. If you were appreciating a piece of art, you wouldn't perhaps expect to have a certain kind of feeling. You'd just be open to whatever it might evoke in you. You can appreciate something that is sad or disturbing or unpleasant even. You'd stand far away, you'd get up close, you'd let it wash over you, you'd let it speak to you. Appreciating also has a quality, a feeling of really getting something, really understanding its significance or value. Appreciating. It's not arguing with it. It's not wanting it to be different than it is. It's not judging it. Bancho and I were on a bike ride near the ocean a few weeks ago, and we saw on the beach a decomposing whale. We went up to it and we walked around and we looked at it and we smelled it and we touched it. And in this way, we appreciated it. We can walk right past a work of art or we can appreciate it. We can label something or someone as annoying or not worth our time, or we can appreciate them. We can turn our minds when we catch our habits of irritation and judgment, turn our minds to metta. How might you appreciate your life? Even the difficult parts, even the parts we'd rather not. Maizumi Roshi says, and here he is, important to see this teacher. We do not see that our life right here, right now is nirvana. Maybe we think that nirvana is a place where there are no problems, no more delusions. Maybe we think nirvana is something very beautiful, something unattainable. We always think that nirvana is something very different from our own life. But we must really understand that nirvana is right here, right now. How is that possible? We can say that our practice is to close the gap between what we think our life is and our actual life as the subtle mind of nirvana. Or more to the point, how can we realize that there is really no gap to begin with? How can we truly appreciate our life? To close the gap, to be with this life in a broad acceptance, not leaving anything out. Well, we have to look. We have to feel. Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen is a physician, is a writer, and is also a person with Crohn's disease. And she is someone who has lived through many surgeries, many challenges as a result of this disease. And here is a story she shares. It is hard to trust something you cannot see. Even after 7 major surgeries, I have had at times difficulty in trusting my healing. In 1981, I developed peritonitis, and sepsis when the sutures holding my intestine together gave way a few days after a 6-hour abdominal surgery. By the time this was correctly diagnosed, I had become gravely ill. I was rushed back to the operating room, where further surgery probably saved my life. I remember being pushed down a corridor at a dead run, the lights overhead flashing by, my surgeon, who was also my friend, running alongside my gurney. Medical culture being what it is, he was talking to me about my case as if we were just 2 physicians lunching in the doctor's dining room, talking about a mutual patient. You know, he said conversationally, because of the infection, we will have to close by primary intention. Filled with drugs and very ill, I remember thinking, primary intention. I used to know what that means. Then events accelerated, and I lost track of it all. Several hours later, I awoke in the recovery room, giddy with the realization that I had once again survived. Barely conscious, I explored my abdomen with a fingertip. There was the big, soft bandage, just as before. Comforted by the familiar, I drifted off. The next day, a nurse appeared to change my dressings. Chatting comfortably, she pulled back the bandages, and I looked down, expecting to see the usual 14-inch incision with its neat row of 100 or more stitches. Instead, there was a great gaping wound, as open as any I'd ever seen while assisting in the operating room. My surgeon's words came back to me in a rush: primary intention. And today I knew what this meant. In the presence of infection, there would be no sutures. The peritoneum and fascia would be closed, and then the wound would be left open to heal on its own. Deeply shocked, I looked down at the ruin of my abdomen. Surely this was a mortal wound. I remember thinking, there is no way that such a thing can heal. The nurse chatted on cheerfully, unaware of my reaction. Taping the dressing back in place, she left the room. The next morning, she was back to change the dressing again. This time, I turned my head aside and wouldn't look. She spoke to me pleasantly while she performed her task. I didn't answer. I was in despair. For several mornings, we went through the same routine, she pulling back the bandage, murmuring encouragement, I, head averted, awaiting the end. After a week or so, it occurred to me that against all probability, I was still here. Perhaps I would not die of this wound after all, but would have to live with it. This raised a completely different set of concerns and obsessions. How would I live with this great hole in my front? Perhaps after many years it might fill in and become flat, a scar 14 inches long and several inches wide. Until then, no tight jeans or bathing suits. Could I wear extra large clothes? Or fill the deep trench in my belly with cotton and tape it in so it would not show? After a few days of such musings, it became obvious that if I was going to live with it, I would need to see it. So that day, when the nurse pulled back the dressing, I forced myself to look again, expecting to see the gaping wound of 10 days before. But it was not the same. Astounded, I saw that it had begun closing in at the bottom and was distinctly narrower. And then an extraordinary thing began to happen. Day after day, she would pull back the dressing, and I would watch as this great wound, in the slow, patient way of all natural things, gradually became a hairline scar. And I, a physician, was not in control of this. It was humbling. Yet I certainly had a front row seat at the healing process. It was only much later that I realized that I had been occupying this same front row seat since the moment I had entered medical school. The life force I had witnessed in myself was a birthright common to us all. What strikes me about this, of course, is the reassurance of the wisdom in this universe, this mystery that we do not control. What is it that stitches a gaping wound back together? Not the fact of the red and white blood cells and the collagen and such, but what is it that moves those things? What is it? What is this life force that we share? In our metta practice, we aren't channeling or cultivating this so much as we are awakening to it. We are accepting it. We are aligning with this life force. We are appreciating it. What also strikes me in this story, though, is the nurse. This other person even with a touch of impersonality, with the awareness and the eyes that can look at this wound, with the nurse's training to guide the hands that can touch and clean this wound, to study and honor the laws of healing, abide by them, and with the heart of humanity to take care of her as long as it takes, to treat this wound with gentleness until the moment Dr. Remen can bring herself to look. A friend appreciates like this when we can't. A human friend, or the beloved that the poets Hafiz and Rumi sing about. A friend brings openness, inclusiveness, and curiosity, is utterly non-judgmental. These qualities are inherent in our life. We can embody this for each other and perhaps even for ourselves. Until we can do that for ourselves, until we can look at our own wounds, our own tenderness, our own vulnerability, the difficult parts, the vulnerable parts, even the childlike, joyful parts, we need some help. We need each other. We need to receive love. The good news is that this is constantly being offered to us. We can practice noticing these moments. Here's an example of this receiving love, a poem by Alison Luterman. It's called At the Corner Store. It was a new old man behind the counter, skinny, brown, and eager. He greeted me like a long-lost daughter, as if we both came from the same world, someplace warmer and more gracious than this cold city. I was thirsty and alone, sick at heart, grief-soiled, and his face lit up as if I were his prodigal daughter, returning, coming back to the freezer bins in front of the register, which were still and always filled with the same old cable car ice cream sandwiches and cheap frozen greens. Back to the knobs of beef and packages of hot dogs. These familiar shelves strung with potato chips and corn chips, stacked up beer boxes, and immortal Jim Beam. I lumbered to the case and bought my precious bottled water, and he returned my change, beaming, as if I were the bright new buds on the just bursting open cherry trees, as if I were everything beautiful struggling to grow. And he was blessing me as he handed me my dime over the dirty counter and the plastic tub of red licorice whips. This old man who didn't speak English beamed out love to me in the iron week after my mother's death, so that when I emerged from his store, my whole cockeyed life, what a beautiful failure, glowed gold like a sunset after rain. Frustrated city dogs were yelping in their yards, mad with passion behind their chain-linked fences. And in the driveway of a peeling paint house, a woman and a girl danced to contagious reggae. Praise Allah, Jah, the Buddha, Kuan Yin, Jesus, Mary, and even jealous old Jehovah. For eyes, hands of the divine everywhere. Sometimes it's when we're cracked open like this that we can see and appreciate these moments more readily. And we do need each other for this. We are the eyes and hands of the divine. We are. We can't do this without each other. We help each other to expand our view beyond our own cynicism and anxiety, beyond our own unwillingness to accept, to be with our life just as it is. So if we're having trouble radiating kindness, if we feel a blockage or a hesitation, or even shut down or irritation towards those we're endeavoring to suffuse with metta, or even if we want to explore taking it up a notch, strengthening our capacity for metta, one thing you're welcome to explore is to call upon our experience of receiving love. This too is metta practice. Can you allow yourself to become aware of these moments, experiencing the kindness of others? Even in the smallest gesture, a smile, an offer to help, a mutual appreciation of some small event in life. I was once a witness and inadvertent recipient of a powerful moment of love in an airport. I was dropping off a friend and walked them to the security gate and was waiting for them to go through. And I was standing near a mother and her baby and a grandmother. The grandmother was dropping off mom and baby to the airport. So grandmother was beaming love into this baby. It was palpable. It was it was so powerful. It was so obvious what was happening. And I've been the recipient of that powerful force, potent force of grandmother love. And I could just see it and feel it. I was in the blast zone. It's amazing. You can also call upon those who may have offered you this kind of witnessing and supportive kindness to you throughout your life. The people who demonstrated to you this unconditional acceptance. We are nourished by these moments and these beings who have offered their kindness and care, who may still be. These are particularly poignant in childhood when we are truly vulnerable. And if you've made it to adulthood, that means that many people have helped you do that. And some of them may have demonstrated this kind of love. It may or may not be a parent. It might be a grandparent or a teacher. Right now, can you recall someone from your childhood who may have offered this to you? Mr. Rogers, in his acceptance speech for his Emmy Award for Lifetime Achievement, he invited an entire audience of celebrities to do this, to bring to mind those people who, in his words, loved you into being, the people who have helped you become who you are, those who have cared about you and wanted what was best for you in life. What a wise and profound practice. And what a way to use an acceptance speech and a world stage. Who are those people for you? You can expand this retinue of people who cared about you in your childhood, even if you didn't recognize it at the time. In this practice, for me, some people who came to mind, my grade school art teacher, Mrs. Harder. She let me come to a special art program with the older kids, and I treasured that time in her class. My parents' friends, the Schrader family, who felt safe, like a second family, and I somehow knew they would take care of me and my brother if anything happened to our parents. The 4 or 5 dads of the girls on my softball team in grade school, in Little League, who took so much time after they did a whole workday to bat balls to us, to teach us how baseball worked, to cheer for us, and to care how we did. These are our benefactors, those who have offered their love and care for our benefit. They do not have to be perfect beings. They most certainly were not or are not. But they had some wish for your well-being. And can you allow yourself to know that? And by knowing, I mean feel that. Perhaps you can envision them beaming their care towards you. How did it feel to be near that person? That is what it's like to receive love. So let's do this together now. You can close your eyes if you'd like and bring to mind those who loved you into being, the people who have helped you become who you are, those who have cared about you and wanted what was best for you in life. You have your own set of benefactors. You can include people and pets, all beings from various points in your life. You can include your spiritual benefactors, your teachers and spiritual friends, people who have helped you arrive here and who help sustain your practice. We are right now receiving the love and care of our ancestors in this spiritual lineage, whether we're aware of it or not. We can appreciate these benefactors too. As you bring any of these people to mind, these beings, receive their care. You can imagine them all together looking at you, beaming their love to you. Again, these people, none of them were or are perfect. You don't have to receive everything about them, but you can receive their goodness. And perhaps you can join them in this wish for your well-being, turning this radiance towards yourself and receiving it energetically, somatically, as light, as warmth, as love. And perhaps you can even let go of any sense of direction to or from, and just merge with this energetic wish, allowing it to just be radiance. Okay. Please feel free to continue with this practice if you choose, or if you'd like to open your eyes. This practice is like an inhale that can precede the exhale of metta. And really, when there's no separation, it's all just metta. This is a softening and a nurturing for our practice of wisdom and compassion. Please know that you are this mysterious radiance that your practice can be as nourishing and supportive to others as the love that you've received has been to you. You're encouraged to continue to explore metta in whatever way is most supportive for you, on or off the cushion. There's a few different practices we've looked at, taking at least a whole sitting period to explore rather than channel surfing. You could engage this invocation of benefactors, offering metta to yourself or to them in gratitude, using the phrases open to the field of metta as sensation, visualization, smiling practice, bringing gentleness into all our actions, turning a judgmental mind towards metta, practicing simple acceptance, or even appreciating this life. Do not underestimate the transformative power of kindness, of love, of metta. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Zen Community of Oregon podcast, and thank you for your practice. New episodes air every week. Please consider making a donation at zendust.org. Your support supports us.